has conducted himself with an intensity that never seems to leave his face. Handed a largely new cast of players this season, Pat Riley has watched them come together in his image, that of togetherness and toughness. He now is attempting to take his superstar a step further, pointing him towards what Riley has already experienced, the ultimate thrill of winning a world championship. Something the New York Knicks last enjoyed 20 years ago. These Knicks, however, are primed for the opportunity to celebrate glory, and their mission begins tonight. When it is all over, maybe, just maybe, Pat Riley will experience that championship feeling once again. Of the Atlantic Division and Eastern Conference champions, New York Knicks, where tonight the 1993 NBA playoffs get underway. For the first time in their history, the Knicks will meet the Indiana Pacers in a best 3 out of 5 opening round series. These fans filing into Madison Square Garden, holding some of the most prized possessions in the city. Tickets to tonight's game, and yes, the towels will be waving. Good evening, everybody. I'm Al Trautwig in for Marv Albert, who's following the NBA playoffs, at least on this opening weekend for NBC, and John Andres, as we look forward to this opening series, which always has the coaches a little bit more on edge because of the 3 out of 5 and not the best of 7. These two teams promise to deliver a very aggressive, physical, maybe even at times out-of-hand aggressive style of play, which has only become the earmark of this matchup for years.
Yes, Alan, it's gone on this year as well, and the Knicks and Pacers have really been banging each other hard. That seems to have been part of the relationship. It started really in Indiana when Charles Oakley nailed Reggie Miller. A move that resulted in him being fined $10,000. Then John Starks was also hit hard by Dale Davis. He was rocked. And Starks hit by LaSalle Thompson. Then Charles Oakley got in the action later on. John Starks going in and rocked. And then Oakley got into the act, defended against LaSalle, had a few things to say to LaSalle Thompson. Both teams want to prove that they can physically answer the matchup. Tonight, however, basketball is going to be a lot more important than that kind of banging around.
In the middle of tonight's game, the center of the New York Knicks, the chance of MVP still heard here at the Garden from what the fans thought of Patrick Ewing on Sunday in the regular season finale. Tonight, it looks as though a game-time decision has placed Rick Smits alongside him, even though tenderness in his right knee prevented him from going through the shoot-around today.
Yes, it was a decision made only moments ago. I talked to Bob Hill earlier. It looked like LaSalle Thompson was going to start, but, you know, Rick Smits must want to perform here in New York against his home crowd, as he did against Patrick Ewing in Indiana in their last matchup when Rick had a tremendous game. But here in New York, Patrick Ewing showed Rick Smits a thing or two, as he has throughout the season. And during this season, in their 4 games, Patrick Ewing has dominated Rick Smits in scoring. They've been equal in field goal percentage. Ewing has a big edge in the rebounding and in the block shots department. But Ewing has the memory of their last matchup in Indiana when Smits really rose above the crowd. Patrick said, I'm not going to let that happen again.
As you can hear behind me, the crescendo that only the Garden can create is building behind us. Tonight, game 1 of this first-round series between the Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. The towels are waving. And before we get started tonight, Madison Square Garden, the Knicks and us wanted to recognize one fan who is not with us tonight, not in person and not watching on satellite back in North Carolina. And now we go to Mike Walshewski.
In a moment of silent tribute to the memory of one of sport's most vibrant and gallant figures, former Iona and North Carolina State head coach Jim Valvano, who passed away earlier this week.
These are the 1993 NBA playoffs on MSG. It must be big. The laser beams are ready. Let's get Mike Walshewski to introduce the Hertz starting lineups.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. Tonight's first-round playoff game features the Indiana Pacers and your New York Knicks. And now for tonight's introductions. First, the Indiana Pacers. Number 5, Sam Mitchell. Number 20, George McCloud. Number 21, Malik Sealy. Number 24, Pooh Richardson. Number 41, LaSalle Thompson. Number 44, Ken Williams. Number 54, Greg Dryling. And the starting lineup for the Pacers: at guard, at 6'5" from Georgia, number 10, Vern Fleming. At guard, at 6'7" from UCLA, number 31, Reggie Miller. At forward, at 6'10" from Washington, number 11, Detlef Schrempf. At forward, at 6'11" from Clemson, number 32, Dale Davis. And at center, at 7'4" from Marist, number 45, Rick Smits. The assistant trainer is Kevin Johnson, trainer David Craig. Assistant coaches Ed Badger, Randy Whitman, and Bob Osipka, and the head coach, Bob Hill.
One thing they didn't do 20 years ago. This place sounds great. Just the way you'd expect the toughest building in the NBA to win for opponents to sound. Pat Riley, in looking to tonight's game, knows that the road to the NBA championship doesn't go through Chicago or Phoenix until it goes through Indiana.
The road to any championship leads through the team you play. I mean, I have great respect for the Indiana Pacers because I know how explosive they can be offensively. I know that they've made great improvement in their defensive rebounding and overall defense. So we are going to have our hands full, and we can't, think about the prognosticators and all these people who are picking us in a landslide. I mean, it's going to be so far from that, but that's incredible. We just got to come and we got to work hard to play Knick basketball.
The Knicks back from their respite and time of togetherness in Charleston, South Carolina. And now tonight's overhead camera shot brought to you by the Upper Deck Company. Nobody does basketball like Upper Deck. The NBA playoffs at the Garden are underway.
Well, Al, when you consider that many times the Knicks play 3 or 4 games in 5 days, the build-up for this one has been tremendous over the last week. Both teams are ready. We've read a lot about the Knicks preparation down in Charleston. Meanwhile, the Pacers have been preparing twice a day for this matchup.
Rick Smits does get the start for the Indiana Pacers. Detlef Schrempf guarded by Charles Smith. Reggie Miller with the early shot, and he looks on and exchanges some words with Charles Smith after the first shot of the game. Here Starks.
Not a bad response.
Vern Fleming starting in place of the injured but expected to play Pooh Richardson, the usual starting point guard of the Indiana Pacers.
This has to be, Al, a special game for Vern Fleming, playing before his home crowd, the city where he played and grew up. And he finished the season filling in for Richardson in grand fashion with 2 gigantic games.
The foul on John Starks just called was his second. In a matter of seconds, Starks has 2.
Well, Starks, in attempting to get through a pick, rocked Reggie Miller.
Rivers guarding Miller. This time Starks goes down. Fleming on the miss. And that'll be a loose ball foul and a technical foul on the closely shaven Charles Oakley.
Official Joey Crawford is a very tough official. That is no secret.
After the loose ball foul was called against Fleming, Oakley speaks up.
Charles complaining about his jersey being held, it appears.
Reggie Miller, an 88% free throw shooter, makes it a 3-2 Pacer lead.
Another look at Charles's jersey being pulled. Vern Fleming grabbed it. That's a pretty tough call by Joey Crawford so early in the game, particularly in view of what we saw.
Setting the tone. Doc Rivers and John Starks setting the Knicks' offensive tone. Pulling up for the quick jumpers. Knicks in front by 1.
Al, meanwhile, John Starks now with the 2 fouls is on the bench for the Knicks, and Rolando Blackman gets the early call.
Detlef Schrempf inside. Good look from Miller. Loose ball scooped up by Oakley. And they'll jump it up. High intensity, as you might expect, in the opening minutes of this one. And somewhere in America, John, Kennard Winchester is smiling.
Yes. Kennard, a member of the Knicks team last year, introduced the idea of black sneakers to the Knicks team for the playoffs, and here we go again.
Oakley wins the tip. Looks a little bit meaner with his short haircut.
Put a lot of pressure on the various sneaker manufacturers that these players enjoy contracts with, wouldn't you say, Al?
Rick Smits called for the foul. First on him, second on the team. We're 90 seconds into this one, and a lot has happened already. Starks with 2 quick fouls. Oakley with a technical. Charles Smith. Foul. Knicks want it to count. And and it's falling on deaf ears.
Well, Charles Smith very happy top of the circle because he loves to put the ball on the floor. With his huge stride, one dribble takes him a long way.
Looked like it was on the way up.
Just as the players have to feel the pressure, Al, you know the officials, being human, have to feel it as well.
The big finish that you just saw detailed on the screen by Charles Smith. Starks can't be liking this.
Oh, this is a shocker. John with early foul trouble, out of the game undoubtedly until the second quarter.
So it's Rivers guarding Fleming. Smith on Schrempf. Oakley on Davis. Rolando Blackman guarding the always potent Reggie Miller. Ewing against Rick Smits. Knicks turning up the defensive squeeze. Schrempf gets away from Oakley. Oakley fires out to Blackman. That one sizzled on his fingertips. He steps to the opening. Feeds Ewing.
Al, that was a splendid pass back from Blackman to Ewing.
Knicks haven't missed a shot.
Looked like Blackman was going to go for his own shot.
Miller over Blackman.
Now there's a guy that doesn't have to face up on the basket in traditional jump shooting fashion. He can execute that shot effectively off balance.
Reggie Miller has all 5 Indiana points. Oakley. Fleming with the loose ball.
Now what Ewing is focusing on with Smits is not to allow him to get down low and get the position he enjoyed in Indiana. Smits is floating on the perimeter, however, leaving his teammates room to move.
Rivers tipped by Ewing. Ewing for Smith, good save. Ewing 2 for 2.
Indiana must learn you cannot leave Ewing open for perimeter jump shots in time as he just was allowed. He has proven to be such a good outside jump shooter.
Knicks with balanced scoring. Pacers with only Reggie Miller. Rejection by Ewing. Out come the Knicks 4 on 2. No look. Oakley. 10-2 run New York.
You know, Al, you commented on Oakley's haircut. It is remarkable how different he looks.
Fans with the early chant of defense. It sounds like the 4th quarter here at the Garden. Fleming for 3. He's played more seasons, games, and minutes than any other Pacer. This is the 6th playoff appearance by Indiana in their NBA time. They've never gotten beyond the first round. Rivers for 3. He answers! Knicks sizzling. 6 for 7. That'll be a foul on the Knicks. Charles Smith is called for his first personal foul.
Vern Fleming proved recently that he's got that three-point shot range. 2 games before the end of the season against Detroit, he hit 5 out of 8 three-point shots. And that also included a 28 total effort, 28 points against Detroit.
Smits over Ewing and a foul on Patrick. You look back to the game 2 weeks ago, John. The Knicks met the Pacers on what most of the people who follow this team say was their best game of the season, a game in which the Knicks seemed flat throughout. And you wondered, was it bad for the Knicks that they allowed the Pacers to gain confidence in playing this team, or was it good for the Knicks that the Knicks learned that on a good night the Pacers can beat them?
Well, I think it was good for the Knicks, Al, in that sense, as you just say. But the fact of the matter is that was the 10th game on the road over a 14-game period, and the 3rd Knicks game in 4 nights in Indiana. They were tired. They just weren't up to it. And the Pacers were. It was a very important game for the Pacers. And that importance could be manifest now over the next 3 games anyway.
Rick Smits misses the second free throw. He's just completing his first 2,000-plus minute season. And you wonder, did all those minutes take a toll on his knee, which is swelling with tendonitis. He's wearing just a minimal sleeve over the right knee as he jogs up the floor. Knicks on the turnover.
Dangerous play by Charles Smith behind the back pass on the move intended for Ewing into the stands.
Again, the Pacers look to back it in on Smits. He hits the top of the backboard and drops it in.
Unbelievable shot.
Well, the Knicks will give him that shot. Charles Smith hits the deck and hits the hoop. 6:40 to go, opening quarter. Smits again. Doc Rivers.
Isn't this something?
He's 3 for 3.
What a jump shooting exhibition.
Back and forth we go. Pacers, remember, in the game in Market Square, focus themselves on picking up the pace. They don't want to get into a half-court game. Oakley fires for Starks, hit the side of Vern Fleming's body. It's a turnover for Indiana. Fans wanted to travel. Miller lets go. Ewing with a monster rebound.
Oakley with big-time position underneath the basket on Dale Davis. And Blackman saw him, and Oakley got fouled.
Everyone expected the Knicks to be prepared. They're shooting 8 for 9.
By the team of Canon Technology and MCS Service. One is a great reason to buy the other. Well, the Knicks spent 70% of their practice on Wednesday on defense. Patrick Ewing showed the results with that beautiful block. That set up a break, which Doc Rivers executed beautifully, and Charles Oakley finished.
Back live, an alley-oop converted by Charles Smith has given the Knicks a 21-13 lead. Pacers not doing a bad job, 5 of 11 from the floor, but the Knicks are shooting now at over 90%, 9 for 10.
Absolutely correct.
And a whistle underneath. Here's the hoop we missed.
Look away pass. Nice job by Charles Smith, grabbing it with one hand, cradling it in the other, and finishing the play.
The pass from Charles Oakley as the Knicks out-rebound the Pacers 7-1.
Top of the circle, Charles is a very dangerous passer.
Rick Smith's quick fires from the baseline. That is the type of shot that led him to the big first-half advantage in the victory by the Pacers on the 16th of April.
And in that game, Al, Rick Smith's had 12 points in the first quarter, 14 in the first half.
Oakley trying to establish his outside game. He's 0 for his first 2 from there. 5 minutes to go, opening quarter, game 1, best of 5, first round NBA playoffs as Detlef Schrempf scores his first points of the game.
Schrempf showing Charles Smith how effective he can be, setting up his own move, dribbling the ball and doing it all by himself.
Ewing finds Blackman. Back for Ewing. 3 seconds will be the call.
Reggie Miller performed beautifully on defense, not allowing Blackman the move he needed to set up Ewing. Good work by the Pacers defensively as a team. He and Smits, Miller and Smits, did a good job.
Pacers in the playoffs, by the way, via a minor miracle. They finished tied with the Orlando Magic. That'll be traveling on Reggie Miller. They had to go to the 4th tiebreaker between Indiana and Orlando, and the reason that the Pacers are here and Orlando is not is that in their season series, Indiana outscored Orlando by 5 points. Matty Gukas looks back to a game in which the Pacers were up in the closing minutes by 22. He emptied the bench. They won the game by 16. That was a 6-point difference, and of course that difference alone would have put the Magic in. It was Thanksgiving night against the Magic, and who said the games in November don't matter? They do. Reggie Miller called on the foul that'll send Rolando Blackman to the line. Blackman getting some important early minutes here with John Starks getting called for 2 quick fouls in the opening minute.
Rolando, a shade under 79% from the line this season, has saved his best moments for the latter part of the season, and he has become a valued player for Pat Riley, not only offensively but defensively, which is part of the attraction for Orlando coming here. Classic example how important it is to have a tall backcourt man who can play defense, because Reggie Miller is 6'7", and that's who Blackman is concerned with.
Miller using the screen to the corner for Schrempf. He hit the top of the backboard and almost dropped in also like Smits earlier. Ewing on the run, lost the handle, saved by Oakley, rejected with force by Dale Davis. It'll be goaltending.
Well, Doc Rivers couldn't pass up the temptation to give it to Ewing, but it was a little too far out from the basket. Patrick mishandled the ball, but it was nicely recovered by Charles Oakley.
Crowd reacting to Anthony Mason stepping to the scorer's table. Fleming from Smits. Over a lot of Knick outstretched hands. Ewing. And Smits is there.
The Knicks are yet into a flow of offense where they're under control. They're tending to rush their shots.
What a move and a crossover by Vern Fleming. Now the Pacers come back to within 3. On the draw.
Why not? Charles with that one big dribble. Dale Davis, the younger Dale Davis, left behind.
Bodies in the paint. It'll be a foul on Doc Rivers. Now a timeout of the Garden. Knicks up by 5 in the opening quarter.
All right, please use good sense when you drink and know when to say when. A reminder from Budweiser. And from our upper deck trading card cam, we see Vern Fleming handling that ball. Crossover dribble. Some may say that's a palm, but he got away with a beautiful move off the backboard and in. Charles Oakley also driving that ball. One dribble out of the deep corner, and he finishes it perfectly right up to the rim. The different-looking Charles Oakley with the new do.
Anthony Mason has checked in. His due's the same. Vern Fleming is at the free throw line as Charles Smith catches a breather.
Now, I got to correct you. Anthony Mason has a Michael Jordan haircut.
No, he still has a sculpture happening up there, John. I did check it out.
Oh, you got the angle. Okay.
There you go.
Oh, that's as tight a haircut. I'll tell you, though, he and Blackman and Oakley spent some time in the barber's chair there this week.
One thing the Knicks also did down in Charleston was get together for a billiards tournament. I don't know who shot how much, but Herb Williams and Jeff Van Gundy must have shot 79% or better to take the team billiards tournament. It was all part of Pat Riley's let's get together, refocus, spend some time, and like each other before these playoffs get started. It was a formula that worked with great success last year, of course. Rick Smits is called on the foul. That's 2 on Smits.
Yes, after the disappointing conclusion in the loss of the Atlantic Division title to Boston, the Knicks went to Charleston, led by Pat Riley and Jeff Van Gundy, Dick Harder, and got ready for the Detroit Pistons, which turned out to be a 5-game win for the Knicks. The Knicks are hoping this series goes 3.
That's 2 quick fouls to Smits, send him to the bench, and LaSalle Thompson checks in. Get an early look that perhaps Bob Hill is not going to go to little used Greg Dreiling in the middle. He's going to try and mix it up a little bit with LaSalle Thompson bringing his experience to the front line.
It's unbelievable how little Greg Dreiling has played this year. 82-game schedule. He's played 239 minutes.
The Knicks' best free throw shooter, Doc Rivers, gives the Knicks a 5-point lead with about 2.5 to go in the opening quarter. Schrempf finding Thompson. Ewing with the miss.
Ewing so active, he's out helping on Detlef Schrempf, and he races in to get that rebound.
This game bursted forth with amazing energy, and Patrick Ewing does it again.
Well, there was a mismatch. Schrempf was on Ewing momentarily, left Ewing to help on the drive, and Ewing was left wide open.
I was just about to say that it seemed to have achieved sort of a normal game calm, set it up, half-court defense and offense as you would expect in the playoffs, and then Patrick went up for the big slam. Thompson underneath Ewing, met by Mason and Oakley. It's a tough duo to meet.
Well, Charles rocks LaSalle Thompson, who has no problem whatsoever. Didn't even show it bothered him. Charles is shorter, you know, Al?
Yes. Thompson off the bench and missing the first free throw. Pat Riley completing his 6th 60-win season in the NBA. He's completing only his 2nd season at the helm of the Knicks, and he's already the 4th winningest coach in franchise history. LaSalle Thompson 1 for 2. Knicks by 6.
Token pressure here by Indiana, trying to knock some ticks off the clock for the Knicks as they get the ball up court, but it certainly didn't bother them.
It is LaSalle Thompson guarding Ewing. The double team off of Sam Mitchell, who has also checked in for Indiana. So the Pacers go with a small lineup in Mitchell, Thompson, Detlef Schrempf, Vern Fleming, and Reggie Miller. Knicks with Oakley, Mason, Ewing, Rivers, and Blackman. Ewing quickly over Thompson, way off. Miller pulls it down. Pacers run it. Fleming loves the open floor, but Rivers is quick to get back.
Pacers have done a good job on the Knicks, who have been so red hot right from the start.
Charles Oakley 0 for 3 from the perimeter, but he does have 6 points. Mitchell. Ewing goes down hard. Patrick Ewing goes down hard and is slowly getting up to his feet, grabbing his right knee. The entire Garden gasped when they saw the Knicks center slumped on the floor, and he limps off, met by Knicks trainer Mike Saunders.
Yes, the Knicks season went down with a thud, but fortunately it got up. Ewing coming out to block that shot gets tripped. And that's a terrible fall because he wasn't ready for the floor. The floor came up too fast for Patrick. He was off balance due to that trip. But happily for the Knicks and Patrick, he's able to walk to the bench and gather himself.
Well, Ewing is attended to. It looks as though he will be pulled from the game as Charles Smith has been sent back onto the floor. Doesn't look to be anything serious, although Mike Saunders was there. You don't want to take a chance.
Well, such a big guy he had every effort in his body going for that shot block, and that was transferred into a fall when he was tripped. He hit the floor hard.
Rivers the fall away. Beautiful tip by Charles Smith. By the way, the Knicks have gone to black sneakers. The Knicks trainers have gone to black outfits.
This is the short lineup here now that the Pacers are presenting, led by 6'10" LaSalle Thompson. Charles Smith can have things his way.
Schrempf throws it away. Great defense by Oakley and Charles Smith on that Indiana possession. Schrempf has been hounded defensively by Charles Smith from the very beginning. 34.4 seconds to go in the opening quarter here at the Garden. About a 10-second differential on the 24-second clock. Charles Smith. He has 10 to lead the Knicks.
He got the position, he got the ball, and off he went with that fadeaway jumper which Schrempf couldn't deal with.
Knicks on an 8-1 run to close out this first quarter. Miller fakes Blackman, falls away. And that will do it. Oh, Doc Rivers hits from half court well after the buzzer. But a little exclamation point to a good quarter for the New York Knicks.
Doc tried it for practice.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the WFAN Knicks Music Tribute.
Oh, what the heck.
Good deal before half court, Al. That's a 50-footer.
Patrick Ewing will be back for the New York Knicks, who lead the Pacers by 10 at the end of one quarter of play in this Game 1 of the NBA playoffs. And joining me courtside, William Red Holtzman, the last coach of the Knicks championship team 1973. Red, what does it take to win a world championship?
Well, it's one of Patrick's favorite words, Pat Riley's favorite, is to stay focused. You know, don't let any outside things bother you, and everybody stays healthy and play the game that you played to get here.
You've got a new book out, An Unforgettable Season, along with Leonard Lewin. What was unforgettable about 73?
Well, the 70 it was, actually. It was about the 1970 season. And unforgettable because it was our first season, and the great brand of basketball that was played by probably the most intelligent team ever, I think.
Red, what about this ball club? Do you like what you see?
Oh, I love the way they play, and I think we're lucky as hell to have a coach like Pat Riley. He's probably the best coach now, maybe the best coach ever in the NBA.
High praise coming from a pretty good coach himself. Back to you, Al.
Okay, Bruce, and the big question is, will the two eras, great eras in New York sports, be connected by the success of this Knicks team? On into the second quarter now, 45 seconds into the quarter. Sam Mitchell called for a foul moments ago. The Knicks forwards have outscored Indiana's forwards, John, 16-2, and both teams got 20 shots in the first quarter. Knicks just made 5 more, and that was the 10-point difference. George McLeod and Doc Rivers bang it up. McLeod just off the bench. Rick Smits is fouled, I believe, by Charles Smith.
Rick Smits showed an aggressiveness on offense, which is what Bob Hill stressed, to get that ball. Look at him holding Smith off with his left hand, willing to work, working hard, moving the feet, and then driving toward the basket. That's the kind of physical play, offensive aggressiveness from Rick Smits I've never seen before.
Sam Mitchell, George McLeod, Malik Sealy into the game, Detlef Schrempf, and Rick Smits. Mitchell to the basket. Oakley stood outside and screamed for the travel. Mitchell just went right on by.
Charles, with the one technical, is playing a dangerous game.
Riley was up and screaming as that play unfolded. Rolando Blackman, well short. Mason follows. Mitchell grabbing Mason from behind. He draws a crowd.
Oakley just bursts into the bodies under the basket to get it his way. Mason removing that hand of Mitchell, not happy. Mitchell aggravating Mason, who continues his surge toward the basket. But Oakley's the one who came in and forced the action his way.
John, that must be the defensive term, in your shorts. Right there. Perfect illustration. Rick Smits is gone with 3 personal fouls. 6 rebounds for Charles Oakley, who steps to the line. John Starks, after the 2 quick fouls in the opening minute, returns to the game, and Rolando Blackman leaves with a very quiet offensive presence. Only 1 shot taken and 1 shot missed.
But Reggie Miller didn't get out of control, Al, and that was Rolando's contribution. Miller with 2 field goals very early.
You know, I don't want to make more of it than anything, but Malik Sealy entering the game brings to mind everything that was in the news today as far as Malik and his lost playbook. Things were said against Knicks players in the scouting reports that became common knowledge. Rolando Blackman, soft on defense, was one of them. Charles Smith also can't take a licking in those words or something to that effect. Smith has come out with 10 points.
And a huge block shot.
And Rolando Blackman played great defense, as you pointed out. Did it inspire those 2?
I don't think it mattered.
Didn't hurt. John Starks for 3. Knicks by 12. Greg Anthony also into the game for the Knicks. He guards the much taller George McLeod. And this will be a loose ball foul, offensive foul. LaSalle Thompson. The Garden very much alive. 9:38 and a half.
Position and cry like baby is panty waist.
Make little hand noises.
Tony Campbell, very poor defense. We must go right at him. If he plays, we win.
Embarrassing to say the least. Greg Anthony hitting an outside jumper. Knicks on a 14-3 run here in the second quarter. They lead by 14 points.
Greg Anthony's had his biggest moments of the season against the Pacers.
Thompson well short. Oakley went to break up the floor. Vern Fleming rejected by Smith. Mason and Thompson. Schrempf stolen from behind by Oakley. Knicks are running. Starks. At the other end of the floor, the whistle is blown to stop play for a wet spot. The hoop will count.
Well, Charles Smith whipping that ball after Oakley broke up the play forward to John Starks, who was up for the two-handed slam. That's the pace the Pacers want to play at. Lots of running. They're not getting it their way yet.
Pat Riley has called Charles Oakley the best defensive power forward in the game. His defense on that play led to a couple of more fast break points.
Charles makes such a commitment physically to defense, and that's what does it for him.
Offensive foul on the Pacers. Vern Fleming is the victim of the call. Patrick Ewing has returned to the Knicks lineup.
Now the challenge for the Knicks tonight in this battle of styles, as Charles Oakley gets recognized as he takes a rest now. The challenge is for the Knicks to contain the Pacers' fast-breaking desires, and they have done that with their defensive transition and their rebounding. The Knicks are turning the tables. They are getting into the running game, as we see with that 8-2 fast break point advantage.
It is a 16-3 Knick run. Charles Smith guarded by Schrempf. Out for Ewing. From 18. Smith follows. Quick return. Tipped by Mason, and it'll be a loose ball foul against Anthony Mason. So to set the lineups, it is Ewing up front with Smith and Mason. The backcourt is Greg Anthony and John Starks. Vern Fleming, Reggie Miller, George McLeod, Detlef Schrempf, and LaSalle Thompson for the Indiana Pacers. Knicks off to a hard beginning. Shooting 90% well into the first quarter, now at 63. And LaSalle Thompson.
I can't believe he made that shot. He just decided to take it. And that was a difficult shot with Ewing right there. And Anthony Mason takes off. He, who handles the ball as well as any big man in the league, on that one-on-one move to the basket, drawing the foul. Mason out high, dribbling right around the 6'8" George McLeod, who plays backcourt for the Pacers.
Knicks by 15. This one could be destined to be a much closer game than it is right now on the scoreboard. First game of the year, late December, Knicks by 6. Next day in Indiana, Knicks by 4. Then the blowout here at the Garden, 31 points, and then the 6-point Pacer victory at Market Square 2 weeks ago.
So 3 games out of 4 decided by a total of 16.
Reggie Miller hits the metal. McLeod whips it away from Smith. Miller is open. He's short again from long range. Starks left open. Mason with the offensive rebound.
Starks has to get the touch again now. He's been sitting a long time.
That was soft pass from Starks. That's the kind where you really want to see the guy hit the jumper, and Mason did it. Knicks by 17. 6:50 to go. Breaking free, Reggie Miller.
Pacers without a center now with Smith's on the bench. Go to that double post down low, freeing Reggie Miller off a beautiful pick.
Timeout is called. Foul on the play. Rick Smits on the bench.
Rick Smits, who emanates from the land of Dutch Boy in the paint. Our points in the paint now. The Knicks 2-1 advantage over the Pacers are dominating this game now with 6:30 to go in the first half yet.
Charles Smith sees Greg Anthony. Pulled down by McLeod. Lobs one from Miller. Running into Anthony Mason. On the end line, it will be Indiana ball. What a strange sequence. as Miller met Mason on the drive. 18 seconds on the 24-second clock. Knicks led by as many as 10 in the first quarter, and they've just kept going here in the second. This will be a foul on Patrick Ewing, number 2.
Patrick always aggressive, always trying to help his teammates. Got caught.
Fleming with no backspin on the ball.
I noticed that.
That's how Kiki used to shoot most of the time. No backspin at all, which is against everything they teach you when you learn how to shoot. The other end, Ewing.
But Sal Thompson can't deal with that. 7-foot Ewing fading away with that one-hander that he really owns now.
They go into LaSalle Thompson. Now imagine having the height disadvantage that Thompson has, and they decide to post him up low against Patrick and have him make a move to the basket. Ewing sees Anthony, misses the layup, and the much taller Dale Davis pulls down the rebound.
Well, Greg had to go to the unfamiliar right hand in the position he was in.
Oh, the Pacers are taking some rough shots. Smith over the shoulder, Mason.
You got to.
The Pacers not introducing Dale Davis offensively at all. Anthony Mason is guarding him tightly.
Reggie Miller starts right there with him. Miller gets around him and uses the hard kiss off the glass.
When you put all that motion into forward effort, as Miller did, you want to use the backboard as he did so beautifully. It's hard to get dainty all of a sudden with the shot, so fire away, but make that backboard help you as Miller did.
Miller with 9, Vern Fleming with 11, Rick Smits on the bench with 3 fouls with 7. John Starks with 9, same total as Doc Rivers. Charles Smith leading the way for the Knicks with 10. Patrick Ewing has 8. Charles Oakley 7 points and 6 rebounds. Well-balanced attack by the Knicks.
Double post here now, trying to get Reggie Miller free. If that doesn't work, Vern Fleming, and it works quite nicely as the Knicks go to sleep on that sequence.
Ron Imus knew that was coming.
That man feels very smart with that playbook.
Oakley and Doc Rivers at the scorer's table ready to return with 3:45 to go in the half. Ewing from way outside.
I mean, you just don't see 7-foot centers shooting the ball out as far as Ewing does. Sal Thompson had to be made a believer, and he has to be.
Sal Thompson decides to go at Ewing again and again and again. McLeod for 3. Pulled down by Thompson. He goes up inside again. Thompson 1 for 5 on that trip up the floor.
He outworked Ewing.
Knicks by 13. They've led by as many as 17. Anthony draws a double team inside for Charles Smith. Kept alive. Still battling Mason with Smith. The foul and the hoop. An even dozen for Smith with a free throw to come. It earns him a body bash from John Starks. The Knicks are into it.
The matchup tonight features the shooting guards for each team. Reggie Miller, the high-scoring Reggie Miller, who leads the Pacers at 21 a game, hit his average in the 4 meetings against the Knicks this year. John Starks was 3 points off his average and way below his field goal percentage as well. Starks did not shine against the Pacers in 4 meetings this year.
Charles Smith completes the three-point play. Charles Smith is eating up Detlef Schrempf. Smith's 13 points, 3 rebounds. Detlef Schrempf 1 for 6 and 2 points, 1 rebound for the team's leading rebounder. Starks, meanwhile, 9 points, 4 of 5 from the floor. He's playing very controlled.
after sitting out all but 2 minutes of the first quarter. Until a couple of minutes were gone in the second quarter because he had 2 fouls early.
That'll be a loose ball foul. Third personal foul against Patrick Ewing. Charles Oakley steps in and Ewing will sit down.
Well, Ewing, boy, what a tight call. That's like a college type call, you know, where that whistle goes up and the big guys are going for the ball. Totally didn't affect any aspect of that play, according to the replay at any rate.
Sometimes you just wonder, why then? Why that play? Because there's so much more contact on most given rebounds.
Particularly when you have a coach saying, as Pat Riley did, Al, down in Charleston to his team, he drove home the point that the most important ingredient of our game must be maintained, and that is be intense, be physical, and be aggressive. That's certainly what Patrick Ewing was doing, and not to any particular extent, and he got that foul call.
Knicks by 15. And another foul against the Knicks. John Starks gets his third. Knicks over the limit. That gets Rolando Blackman off the Knicks bench. So if the Knicks have a problem now, it's foul trouble.
John Starks fouled out of 3 games in the 80 that he played for the Knicks this year. So this is not a usual situation for him.
Reggie Miller finished out the NBA's regular season with 339 consecutive starts. That's the longest active string in the NBA. Paul Richardson returns to action. You may remember he was a victim in that Indiana victory over the Knicks 2 weeks ago when he tore his right calf muscle. He returned to limited practice yesterday, worked out with the team today, and now returns to the lineup. Pressure by Indiana with 2 minutes to go. Mason catches up to the Oakley inbound. Rivers guarded by Miller. Knicks work it in from Mason. And off Mason's fingertips, Indiana ball.
Let's go, let's go.
So Pooh Richardson with his first dribbles on the floor in a couple of weeks goes to George McLeod, guarded by Charles Smith.
Also, Al, it's Pooh Richardson's first playoff experience as an NBA player after 3 years with Minnesota.
George McLeod, who can run up strings of three-pointers, makes it a 10-point ball game, which is where it was at the end of one. Both he and Sam Mitchell, John, benefiting from that trade and getting their first trip to the playoffs. Rivers from Mason, underneath Schrempf, doesn't get the roll. Detlef Schrempf was called for the foul, his first. Schrempf totally out of it in this first half. So Mason to the line with 3 points and 3 rebounds.
Mason had a somewhat quiet 4 games. Solid, but not spectacular this year against Indiana. Averaged 8 points a game.
It's not often you'll see a player off the bench get the second most number of minutes on a team, except maybe if Detlef Schrempf is the man you're talking about in his old role. But that's exactly what Mason did. Second most number of minutes on the floor for the Knicks this season. Timeout on the floor here at the Garden with the Knicks back in front by 12 with 1 minute and 8 seconds to go. Game 1 of this best of 5 in this first ever playoff meeting between the Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. Game 2 here at the Garden on NBC 12:30 on Sunday. This copyrighted telecast of the National Basketball Association may not be retransmitted, reproduced, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of the NBA. After tonight's game, we'll take you, as always, live to the play-by-play. Mike Francesa will talk to Bill Cosby, Danny Glover, Dan Reeves, and we will have the finals of the Bouncing and Pronouncing with Clyde contest.
Well, this first half is winding down with the Pacers shooting only 43% from the field.
Miller cuts from a down-low pick.
happens to be the number that the Knicks have allowed on the average against their opponents this year. The league-leading field goal percentage defense.
Second foul on Doc Rivers. One thing that seems to have been a constant in the series is that the Pacers have shot better than 45% in the first half, only to average 38% in the second half, meaning that the Knicks seem to come out of the locker room a little bit more determined defensively, at least when they've taken on Indiana.
Well, if Smits didn't play tonight, there was question as to whether he would, and he started and has done fairly well, except his time is being limited due to fouls. Bob Hill was happy to have LaSalle Thompson. He says, we feel we're a better defensive team with him on the court. Same thing with Vern Fleming, over Pooh Richardson. They feel they're a better defensive team with LaSalle and Fleming out there.
Impressive Indiana pressure in this closing minute. This will be a foul on the Pacers with 6 seconds remaining on the 24-second clock. George McLeod is called for the foul. I remember that being one of the most impressive things of that Indiana victory was how tight their defense was for the entire game. They never let up. Rolando with his injury-plagued season, a rarity for him. He experienced a lot of things for the first time in his career this year with the Knicks.
Well, the big thing, ego-wise, was that he wasn't the man that the team went to as it was for him in Dallas in 11 seasons. And he was their 20-point-a-game man. Now he's a role player, and he's adjusted quite well. He's sublimated his ego.
Knicks by 12. Richardson trapped by Smith and Rivers. Smith with McLeod back, and Charles Smith back to Doc. A defensive pinch as the guard comes across midcourt that the Knicks use so often worked out so well.
The pass back by Smith was a beauty.
Chance of defense to end out the half. Loose ball, Indiana's ball, with 3 seconds remaining on their 24-second clock. Knicks by 14. Richardson or LaSalle Thompson. Out and off, and the Knicks will not be able to get a shot, but they made more than their share in that first half. They came out storming, led by as many as 17 in the second quarter. And as these teams go to the locker rooms in game one of this opening first round best-of-5 series, it is the Knicks 60 and the Pacers 46. Bruce Beck will be back. Walt Frazier, a report from the sports desk, and more. Stay with us.
Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks lead the Pacers 60-46 at the half. The Knicks front line outscoring the Pacers front line as far as starters are concerned, 30-9. And New York by 14 at the half. Here's Bob Page now at the MSG Sports Desk.
And Bruce, what do you know? While the Knicks are rolling as expected against the Indiana Pacers, the Chicago Bulls were expected to have a tougher time at home in the opening of their series against Atlanta. They too rolling. They too lead by 14 points. In the opening quarter, off an Atlanta Hawks miss, Will Perdue gets the basketball out to John Paxson, whose buzzer beater makes it 36-28 for Chicago going into stanza number 2. And then late in the second quarter, watch this sweet bounce pass coming up from Stacey King to B.J. Armstrong. He hits the bank shot and gets the call. That made it 57-38 for Chicago at the time. As you know by now, funeral services were held today in North Carolina at a Catholic church named St. Andrews in Apex for New York native Jimmy Valvano. Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski among the many dignitaries from the college basketball world on hand. Dean Smith also there in tribute to the 47-year-old who died of cancer on Wednesday. Among the pallbearers, Krzyzewski and former Iona coach Pat Kennedy. Valvano's final days were remembered by another friend.
He sends me a personal handwritten letter, and he says, I showed it to my wife. I said, isn't this amazing? He writes, Dick, slow down, man. Your schedule's unbelievable. Slow down and smell the roses. Enjoy your family. Life is too precious. I couldn't believe that he would take a time, and I just can't believe it's over.
Well, with the crazy world we live in these days, it's almost surprising that we have yet to have a sports assassination. Today, tennis star Monica Seles nearly became that first victim. Playing in a tournament in Hamburg, Germany, Seles was stabbed in the back during a changeover in the second set of a match. TV cameras did not pick up the actual attack, but you'll be able to hear the screams here. The world's #1 women's tennis player stood in shock before collapsing, clutching her bleeding back. Monica was quickly attended to, taken to a hospital. She will be all right. She was remarkably lucky. As for this deranged moron who ran out of the stands, he was quickly subdued and arrested. Doctors said the 8-inch knife missed Monica's spinal column by an inch. The name of the attacker still has not been released, nor has been his motive, though that may have been political because Monica is from the war-torn former nation of Yugoslavia. I'll have more after this. Down with the Seattle Mariners opening up a weekend series at the stadium against the Yankees, a game that can be seen live now on a regular MSG service. This is the 4th inning. Velarde at third. Talk about a seeing high ground ball. How about that one off the bat of Jimmy Leyritz that scores Velarde with the game's only run. Melito Perez has a 3-hitter so far and has struck out 7. John Cummings pitching for Seattle. Later tonight, the slumping Mets open a weekend series at San Diego. We'll return to Bruce Beck after, again, this timeout.
The Pacers 60-46 at the half. Let's take a look at the Tri-State Jeep and Eagle leading scorer summary for the Knicks. Charles Smith with 13, Doc Rivers with 11, and Patrick Ewing also in double figures with 10 points. And for the Indiana Pacers, offensively, Vern Fleming with 13 points, getting the start in place of Pooh Richardson, Reggie Miller with 12. Bruce Beck with Clyde Frazier courtside, and Clyde, the Knicks looked like caged lions after a week with Pat Riley.
Yeah, they were hell-bent, steadfast, persevering. They dominated the board, so they were getting second opportunities, pounding on the defense. The Pacers perplexed and vexed by the swarming Knicks.
It was defense for the Knicks in that first half of plays. They've opened up a 14-point lead. Highlights brought to you by Minolta, creators of the world's most responsive SLR cameras, the new Maxim XI series. Some pretty good looks by a lot of the Knicks tonight offensively.
And some of the untangibles of Charles Oakley. Here, the nice pass, and Smith with the crowd-pleasing stuff. So Oakley, renowned for his perspiration, providing inspiration here. Watch him hustling back to come up with the steal. And John Starks will be the recipient of the good play by Charles Oakley. But the Knicks have been prospering in transition all evening. So Starkey with the good stuff.
Well, you know, Reggie Miller is capable of fueling it up from long range, but he also can go to the hoop.
Yeah, it can be Miller time. So this time, Matador D by Starks, and poor weak side help by the Knicks as he penetrates and devastates off the glass.
Clyde out of the gate quickly as we commence the NBA playoffs. So the Knicks have the lead at the half in commanding style. A short break, back at the Garden with more in a moment. Right now, let's pick up the public address.
On behalf of Metropolitan Life, I'm delighted to present the MetLife Knick of the Year Award to Patrick Ewing. In addition, MetLife will present the $5,000 check to the Charles Smith Educational Fund. Congratulations, Patrick. Good luck. We really love you.
So Patrick Ewing, for the 5th consecutive year, honored as the MetLife Knick of the Year Award, and the crowd coming alive with chants of MVP. And what an unselfish move by Ewing, who was allowed to donate $5,000 to the charity of his choice, and he selected his teammate, Charles Smith's foundation, and that's where he made the selection. Nice choice by Patrick. Back to Al Trotwood.
All right, Bruce, it's taken 8 seasons for the fans of New York to come to respect Patrick Ewing for all he's done for this team. Let's take a look at some of the numbers that jump off the stat sheet. First, the field goal shooting of the Knicks.
Yes, they are in control. They started out hot, and they stayed that way. 58%'s big time. Knicks owning the boards. The big two, Ewing and Oakley, they're among the league leaders, and they're doing it tonight. And assists also, the Knicks sharing the ball well. Excellent passing going on out there, and field goal percentage high, meaning a lot of assists. And the Smith-Shrimp matchup, respective forwards, Look at Detlef Schrempf, one of the league's leading scorers. 2 points in the first half. Charles Smith, a very solid 13 and 5 rebounds. Where is Detlef Schrempf?
Yeah, in his native Germany, they would say, "Was gibt? What's up?"
Well, meanwhile, they're matched up against each other, so Charles Smith gets lots of points for his defense on Detlef.
Same starting unit out there for the Knicks. This will be an offensive foul on Reggie Miller. Second foul on Reggie, who ended out the first half with 12 points, 4 of 10 from the floor. Dale Davis up front with Rick Smits and Detlef Schrempf. Reggie Miller in the backcourt with Vern Fleming. Charles Smith, and the first hoop of the second half is a Knick deuce. They're up by 62-46.
Schrempf didn't even bother Charles Smith.
They've got Oakley guarding Rick Smits. And Schrempf travels. Pressure out at the top of the circle by Charles Smith.
Well, the reason for that matchup with Oakley on Rick Smits is that Patrick Ewing has 3 fouls, Oakley only 1.
Rivers guarded by Fleming, Starks by Miller.
Starks only played 9 minutes of the first half. You know he's raring to go.
He got 2 fouls in the opening minute. Ewing hit hard by Smits. That'll be number 4 on Rick Smits. Knicks had a brief scare back in the first half when Ewing went to the floor attempting to block a shot. Went down in pain, got up in a hurry. Quick look by Mike Saunders. It was just a banged right knee, and he returned later in the half.
Smits looked over to Bob Hill and verbalized something, and Hill nodded in agreement, which it looks as though indicates Smits with 4 fouls is going to stay in there.
Patrick had a pretty good run at the free throw line on Sunday in the game against the Bulls when the fans chanted MVP. That time it was a miss.
And it's picked up here tonight at any opportunity. When the crowd can recognize Ewing, they are chanting MVP once again.
Well, the Knicks had more than 800,000 fans come to the Garden this season. In 39 of the 41 games, there were sellouts, but they are not, unfortunately for him, voting members for the award. Ewing comes down with another rebound. That's 6. Oakley looks inside. Ewing guarded by Smits, who's guarding him with 4 personal fouls. Ewing spins. Hard, but successful.
Well, he used his body perfectly in protecting the ball. And Smits now with 4 fouls is going to play him softly. Meanwhile, where is Dale Davis, the starting forward for the Pacers? 13 minutes of the first half, no points, 2 rebounds. No shots either.
There he is, John, with a shot. That is off. Starks comes out of it. Knicks roar out of the locker room on a 9-0 run. Patrick Ewing back at the other end of the floor, checking on a contact lens, I believe. He stays out there.
Mike Saunders, Knicks trainer, to the rescue.
Pacers look completely disorganized. They don't seem to have any sort of offensive flow, rhythm, or guidance at this particular point. And the Knicks have exploded in front to a 65-46 lead.
The Pacers are a very marginal team emotionally. Take a look at the action is going on at the other end of the court. The Knicks playing with 4 defenders, and it didn't hurt the Knicks' effort. But this is a team that's very, very marginal emotionally. And I know, Al, I was speaking with some of the people who cover the Pacers on a regular basis, and they felt that if this team didn't come out strong, at least play a tough game against the Knicks, they just might fold up. And it has that potential look to it, certainly right now.
There was a time when the Pacers were 6 games below 500 as Ewing misses, that Bob Hill was quoted as saying, "What do I have to do? Surgically open up their chests and implant a heart?" Well, the team ran off a pretty good run after that, and they finished at 500. There's Rick Smits on the bank. But Hill's been very outspoken about what has been, at times, a total lack of chemistry on the floor and off the floor with this team.
Very difficult for a coach, because the more you criticize a team, naturally that comes back to haunt you as the leader.
Well, Charles Smith is just continuing what he established in the last few weeks of the season tonight. Fleming runs over Smith. Heave to the corner for Miller. 7 on the 24. Look inside for Dale Davis, and finally, he's got points.
Looks a little slow in their defensive rotation. Nice look, however, by Smits.
9 minutes to go in the third quarter. That tie of Bob Hill's, and this is a man who would never want to wear the same outfit that anyone would notice. Ewing is off. Oakley battles. Is the same tie he wore the night that the Pacers beat the Knicks at Market Square, but this is Madison Square.
Good pickup, Al.
Well, I had a little help from you, John, and you're someone who would notice that. And also ask Bob Hill about it.
I'll tell you, as long as you bring that up, Bob Hill has chosen his outfit for Sunday's game. Described it to me before.
It will be Pacer ball. What color is he going with predominantly?
Oh, it's some kind of blazer ensemble.
Knicks by 15. Reggie Miller's made a dent offensively, but the Knicks have not let him get untracked at all. The illegal defense called against the Knicks.
Well, the Knicks have been thinking for days about this man, Reggie Miller. Pat Riley is reminding them he gets no room. If he gets room, he'll hurt you. You cannot give him room. And Reggie Miller hasn't gotten any.
88% on the long season from the line. Perfect tonight, 5 for 5. Miller's got 13 points as the illegal defense results in a technical, and now the Pacers get a fresh 24 and possession. Dale Davis. Oakley hit the ball, slapped it. Davis was still able to score. Garden gets a little restless now as the Pacers put together a bit of a run. It was 20 points just a few minutes ago. Starks hit from behind. It will be Indiana ball. He grimaced and complained. Indiana with the ball, enjoying an 8-2 run. Indiana ball. Doc Rivers pestering Reggie Miller.
The reason the Knicks have to respect Reggie Miller, who's a high-scoring player naturally for this team, led the team in scoring this year for the 4th straight year. He scored 57 points this year against Charlotte in late November. So with any kind of room, he will take advantage and do harm.
Fleming working overtime for that shot. Oakley the rebound for Doc Rivers. Rivers sees an opening. Knicks quick to get back. Starks waiting for Reggie Miller at the three-point line. Schrempf. Pacers love to shoot from beyond the stripe. Charles Oakley slams the ball to the floor. Detlef Schrempf off the mark. 7:18 to go. Knicks by 14 at the Garden.
Good times with friends. Use good sense and drink responsibly because friends know when to say when. A reminder from Budweiser.
Bill Cosby, Kathleen Turner, Woody Allen, John McEnroe, Dan Reeves. They're all here at the Garden tonight.
Doc Rivers' crossover dribble might be a palm in some circles, but the softness of that execution brings success for Doc Rivers.
Knicks by 14. They had a brief 20-point lead earlier in this third quarter. Starks finds Ewing. Smith battling hard over the head of George McCloud and breaking inside Charles Smith.
You know, Smith is out there with 4 fouls, but he's playing very softly. Well, he's got to make something happen or he shouldn't be on the court.
Smith with 6 points in this third quarter, 19 on the game. Starks on Miller. Pacers set a screen at Smith's. Miller for McCloud, for Fleming. They work for the open shot. Ewing thought he was pushed from behind on the rebound. It will be Indiana ball. McCloud driving the baseline. Loose ball, it's Doc Rivers. One-on-one with Reggie Miller. For Oakley behind the back.
Charles threw the layup up, unfortunately, after a beautiful setup from Doc Rivers.
George McCloud off on the three-point attempt.
Got to take that ball to the rim.
That'll be a foul against Indiana. Dale Davis is called for the foul. That is the 4th foul on Dale Davis. So 2 Indiana starters now on the floor with 4 personal fouls. Dale Davis and Rick Smits. Our bill does not have the Pat Riley luxury of a deep bench. Ewing spins on Smits. High for the rebound, Dale Davis. Miller cuts away from Starks. Great move. Well short, Knicks break out. Starks 1-on-3. He goes into the front row and cannot believe he wasn't fouled. Back comes Indiana.
Fortunately, the official didn't see John's reaction. Would have been a technical. Reggie Miller finishing it up.
Well, John was 1-on-3, and he decided to go. Fans booing. Knicks by 14. Charles Smith is fouled just seconds before he would have coughed the ball up.
Indiana foul is on George McLeod. His third
foul on McLeod.
John Starks in this breakaway took on Smits, threw up a wild shot. He thought he was fouled, and look at him react. That display could cost a technical, result in a technical rather, but the officials did not take note of John.
Charles Smith slams it home. Madison Square Garden alive as the Knicks take a 16-point lead over the Indiana Pacers. It started as a 10-point lead in the first, up as high as 13 in the second, as high as 20 in the third, and now 14 points as the Knicks lead the Indiana Pacers as they have throughout. John Starks well off. Reggie Miller is there, met by LaSalle Thompson. George McLeod, quick look for Vern Fleming, and that's the kind of movement and vision on the floor that has been totally missing from Indiana's game tonight.
Well, they spread that offense out so well, accidentally, and the ball moved beautifully for them.
Al Troutwig for Marv Albert, along with John Andres and Bruce Beck from Madison Square Garden. Doc Rivers breaks free and right over Reggie Miller.
That's just a great move. I mean, he goes in with the right hand, his shooting hand, then realizes he's got to go left because of the defensive obstacle in front of him, and he does it perfectly.
On a night when Patrick Ewing has not been able to exploit Rick Smits with only 13 points, Charles Smith has delivered 21. Vern Fleming is fouled in the lane. Doc Rivers has 15. And Ewing 13 complete the scoring trio leadership for the Knicks. Anthony Mason returns as Charles Smith hears it from the Garden. 15 points apiece for Vern Fleming and Reggie Miller for Indiana, and 11 for Rick Smits, who, like Dale Davis, is playing with 4 personal fouls. Vern Fleming to the line. Vern Fleming is in his 9th season and has played more seasons, games, and minutes than any member of the Indiana Pacers. Knicks fans might note that Herb Williams is number 3 on that all-time list.
Vern Fleming also tops the Pacers' NBA career charts in assists, steals, and he has been the quietest member of that franchise, considering his great contributions over the years, you know?
I think if you asked around the NBA, not in Indianapolis, identify the player of the Indiana Pacers, I don't think people would say, Vern Fleming, you're right. Knicks have had great shooting throughout. They hit 9 of their first 10 in the opening quarter and have kept it going, not at that level, but well over 50%. Pacers running, as is their one. Fleming spins from Rivers. Rejected by Rivers. Oakley up the floor. Stolen back by McLeod. Miller for 3.
That's his version of a layup, Al.
He had 167 of those in this regular season, missing the NBA record for a season by only 5. He brings the Pacers within 11. Ewing, quick look, intercept by LaSalle Thompson. Fleming, stolen by Rivers. He finds Mason. All alone is Oakley.
You know, the game is getting sloppy from a basketball perfectionist viewpoint, but it's much more fun to watch now as the Pacers have come to life. There's more action out there. Perhaps It's George McLeod's presence. He and Fleming are moving the ball well for the Pacers.
We've just moved under 3 minutes, and the trademark chant of defense underway here at the Garden. Rick Smits. Starks battles with Fleming. He comes away with it. A lot of white shirts with him, and he goes all the way, pulling the ball up.
He faked everybody out on that. It looked like an automatic pass. He kind of hesitated, looking to the people to his left, indicating pass, but no, it wasn't. He kept it.
Towels waving at the Garden. 2.5 to go in the third. Knicks by 13.
Tough now. They're not letting the Knicks get away from them entirely, thanks to good shooting. On our AT&T long-distance shooting points out that Reggie Miller is number 4 with career three-pointers made. He made 167 this year, more than anybody. And from our upper deck trading card camera, Reggie Miller, with no one in front of him, finds a very easy shot for him. That's a long shot for any basketball player who's played this game over the years, but Reggie Miller makes it look so easy.
Feel free, John, to make any further predictions before they happen as we move on through this third and fourth quarter to come.
You have to be very selective, Al.
Seconds counting down to the 24-second clock. Here's Charles Oakley pulling down the rebound for the Knicks. 9 rebounds, 9 points for Charles Oakley. Yet another solid performance by him. And Charles Smith just having an outstanding game. Starks draws 2. Mason back for Starks. He'll measure the 3. Trev saves it and sails into the front row. He's back on the floor and okay. Miller is off. Pooh Richardson in the game, and he hits on the follow. Richardson off the bench for Indiana. He's with McLeod, Miller, LaSalle Thompson, and Detlef Schrempf. And against that smallish Indiana lineup, it's Doc Rivers with John Starks, Oakley, Mason, and Ewing up front. Patrick Ewing, quiet for most of the game offensively, had his knee banged up a little bit in the first half. He now has 15 points.
He has it easy when he gets the ball in the low post and takes that turnaround jumper as long as LaSalle Thompson's out there.
Detlef Schrempf is fouled on the approach to the basket. Rolando Blackman and Malik Sealy into the lineup. Patrick Ewing has just committed his 4th personal foul, and that gets Charles Smith off the bench.
The reason I say Ewing has it easy with LaSalle Thompson, not to degrade Thompson's defense, which is considered important by the Pacers, but Ewing just looks right over him at 6'10", so his vision is clear to the hoop.
Schrempf misses the first. We're getting a look. I mean, Schrempf hasn't really been into the flow at all. He's got only 4 points, but he went to the free throw line this season, drawing fouls 653 times, a Pacers record. That's almost 100 more free throws than Patrick Ewing, who's the highest nick. And he draws the fouls with his moves to the basket. Pacer pressure in the backcourt.
Schrempf also had a career-high 4 triple-doubles this year.
Knicks by 12. Rivers on the taller Sealy. Fires it inside. It's intercepted by George McLeod. Richardson for Schrempf. And he finds the range. Now 2 of 8 from the floor. 45 seconds to go.
10-point game.
Rivers for Oakley. Back for Doc. It will be Pacer ball. Fans are screaming at the end court here at the Garden. 25 seconds remaining in the third quarter. We're back where we were at the end of the first. A Knick 10-point lead. McLeod with a rainbow that makes it an 8-point game. This pressure by Indiana has been very successful in the closing minutes. Mason. Short, and Schrempf grabs it as the buzzer sounds.
Good things happen with this different lineup that the Pacers presented.
Pacers are as close as they have been in a long while.
Chicago, where the Bulls are hammering Atlanta. Third quarter off a Pippen miss. Purdue battles ex-Nick Trent Tucker beautifully to Scott Williams. That made it 82-57. Bulls lead now is 30 going into the fourth quarter.
the Bulls making their statement on the opening night of their playoff series with Atlanta. Knicks opening things up here at the Garden, leading Indiana 81-73. Their lead more precarious than it has been since back in the first quarter. Greg Anthony's come off the bench. His pass for Smith is almost intercepted by LaSalle Thompson. Charles Smith barrels his way in. Mason the big offensive rebound. Anthony and Blackman are the guards up front with Mason, Smith, and Oakley.
You know, when Charles drives to the basket like that, he's doing it, showing tremendous effort, but you wonder if he realizes where the basket is, actually. Because when he gets there, it seems to be a new experience for him, as he doesn't focus on the rim. He just kind of throws it up like it's going into a blind spot or something.
Detlef Schrempf called for his second personal foul. Meanwhile, Rolando Blackman seems amazingly reluctant to shoot the ball. He's had a fair number of minutes in this game so far. He's taken only one shot. Greg Anthony well short, and Pooh Richardson is off and running.
Well, Rolando and Greg Anthony not working it out well at all. That's a bad play by the Knicks, and Blackman was the man back and responsible to cover that as Anthony did the shooting. Greg Anthony on an adventure right now, coughs it up.
A turnover. The Knicks look sloppy.
Pat Riley's patience now being tested as he paces up and down in front of the Knicks bench.
Nick ball. Pacer ball. Indiana 9-2 is the run. They're within 6. Anthony up on Richardson. Sealy driving on Blackman. Great defense by Blackman. Loose ball in the hands of Anthony. Ewing on the bench with 4 personal fouls. Blackman wide open for 3. He's 0 for 2, followed by Oakley, and he swings at McLeod. He's gone. A tough enforcement of the new playoff rules.
Well, Al, as you mentioned, the NBA's new policy is that if a player throws a punch but misses, he is ejected from the game. During the regular season, a player who missed a punch was not suspended.
And Johnny's gone for a game, too. He's ejected from this game, and he's gone from game 2. And Oakley now pulls away from Pat Riley.
A personal foul was on George Mahal of Indiana.
A player who throws a punch but misses will be ejected from the game and suspended for the next game, Al, as you just pointed out.
That is a very costly moment in Game 1 for the Knicks.
And only the other day, the NBA announced its toughening of a policy covering violence for the playoffs.
Oakley had already been called for a technical foul in the first quarter. Now he's letting Knicks Vice President John Cirillo have it. Dick Harder off the bench to try and calm him down. Meanwhile, on the floor, Detlef Schrempf hits the technical foul.
NBA Vice President Rod Thorne is here tonight as well.
I just want to get one thing confirmed. Was this a second technical, or was he ejected immediately for the punch?
Now, you have to, I don't know what makes a punch up, but that certainly didn't look like a punch. But it was interpreted apparently as such, Al. We have to back off now on the suspension for the next game. That was the technical that got him ejected from the game.
Now Malik Sealy is called for the foul.
So there is no suspension on that. That was not interpreted as a punch. That was his second technical. Oakley freeing himself. And the verbalization that followed got him the technical foul, which meant the ejection as it was his second technical.
When I first saw Bennett Salvatore issue the "you're gone," I didn't see him make the tee. I thought he went for immediate ejection as a result of what could have been interpreted as a punch.
It was not a punch.
So this may not turn out to be as bad as it was a moment ago, or at least as what I thought. 10 minutes to go, the Knicks by 5. Tensions rising. Out of bounds. It is kicked. It will be Nick Ball. And Patrick Ewing now has words with Greg Anthony. Boos at the Garden, where there is a timeout. A moment ago in a conversation with official Joe Crawford is that Bennett Salvatore was very well aware that Charles Oakley already had one technical in the game, and when he saw that move over the head of McLeod, he gave him a second tee immediately and immediately ejected him.
Charles had the first technical in the first half, and that was the gesture that got the technical, not the words.
It was not viewed as a punch. They were not invoking the new rules that will govern players and violent acts in the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Knicks, as far as the game goes, are in a bit of a desperate time. Blackman, guarded by Miller, is fouled.
They have not scored a field goal in almost 4 minutes.
Fourth personal foul on Reggie Miller. The fouls are building up on both sides. Reggie Miller has 4. Dale Davis has 4. Detlef Schrempf has 4. Rick Smits has 4. That's... The foul was on Schrempf is 4, so 3 of the starting 5 of Indiana have 4 personal fouls. Meanwhile, the Knicks, 4 for Patrick Ewing, who's on the bench. Sam Mitchell returns.
Meanwhile, the Indiana Pacers, who everyone expects to check out in 3 games, I think even the Pacers fans feel that way as well, have established some pride here in their team with this comeback in the second half.
Pacers within 7. Malik Sealy off the bench. Drives on Charles Smith. For Mitchell, guarded by Mason. Sealy to the hoop. Rejected by Smith. Sealy follows. Rejected again by Smith. But a foul on the play.
Malik Sealy in college was a very successful forward. In the NBA, they have him geared to be a guard, and this is one of the reasons why. Can't get that shot off. It keeps getting sent back. Malik Sealy, a complete player in that he shows the ability to play the guard position, but at 6'8", it appears the forward, the up front position, is a little too much for him.
Sealy 0 for 3 from the field. That free throw was his first point. So the 2 Sealy free throws make it a 5-point game as we approach the 9-minute mark of the fourth quarter. Anthony and Blackman the guards. Smith, Mason, and Ewing up front. Blackman cuts out from a low screen. First points for Orlando Blackman as the Knicks end the drought that lasted 4 minutes and 20 seconds without a field goal. Reggie Miller breaks away from Ewing, followed by LaSalle Thompson.
In the presence of Charles Smith and Patrick Ewing.
It's a 5-point game again.
Knicks front line has lost some of their awareness and defensive aggressiveness.
Blackman snaps it for Ewing. Patrick Ewing with a big basket, and he comes away screaming with happiness. 7-point Knick lead. Sealy for 3. Well short. Mason rips it down.
Amazing that the Pacers are doing so well without major contributions from Detlef Schrempf.
Second in a row for Ewing. 19 for Ewing with 8 rebounds. He's 9 of 17 from the floor. His last 2 have come consecutively and at a very important time for his team. Patrick Ewing hitting 2 big hoops, giving the Knicks a 9-point lead, a bit of a breather. The Pacers have crept to within 5. Back in the third quarter, the Knicks had as much as a 19-point lead. Doc Rivers returns. In the backcourt, he's joined by Rolando Blackman, Mason, Ewing, Smith up front. Charles Oakley has been ejected with 2 technical fouls, 1 in the first half, 1 here in the second. Smits follows. The Miller miss. And Oakley, the Knicks have lost a 9.9 rebound, 6 assist performance. Smith tried the dunk follow. Ewing all over him.
Rick Smith's running with a little difficulty now up court. He woke up a couple of days ago with soreness in his right knee. Oddly enough, it didn't happen, in a specific action on the court. He just woke up with it.
Blackman off on the three. John Starks on the bench with 3 personal fouls. That'll be a foul on the Reggie Miller drive. Charles Smith is called for it. That is his 4th personal foul.
Reggie Miller is one of those special people in professional sports who has a very lean body. I mean, the guy is skinny, and yet he's as tough and as hard as it gets, and has a tremendous competitive spirit. Very, very hard player.
Blackman left with 7 points, 5 of those from the free throw line. John Starks returns with 11 points. And 4 fouls is like a flu. Everybody's got it. Davis, Schrempf, McLeod, and Smith for Indiana. Ewing and Smith for the Knicks. Charles Oakley ejected with the 2 technicals that we spoke about a moment ago. Reggie Miller is now 7 of 7 from the free throw line. He's at 20 points to lead Indiana. 17 for Vern Fleming.
Doc Rivers handling the ball now in the point guard position after Greg Anthony put back on the bench for a bit.
Smith from 20. His success continues. 23 points for Smith. Under 6.5 to go.
Anthony Mason with his tongue out guarding Detlef Schrempf quite aggressively and actively.
Smith's over Ewing, who defends Smith with 4 personal fouls. Smith will do the same against Ewing at the other end. Charles Smith dribbling all over the floor. Ewing in around Smith's. Looked for the foul, didn't get it. Knicks by 9 again.
Smith is not showing much heart in his pursuit of Patrick Ewing.
Miller, a running hook, draws another foul from Charles Smith. That'll be 5 on Smith.
Rick Smith's incidentally the beneficiary of what appears to be a new 5-year contract for about $17 million, according to reports out of Indiana. It hasn't been officially announced yet, but from what I'm told, that will be the deal. Nice recognition of Rick's 5 years now in the NBA.
Pacers doing the job at the free throw line. 22 of 25. Reggie Miller, 8 of 8. 9 of 9. 7 points the difference. Here comes the Indiana pressure that was so successful near the end of the 3rd quarter.
Anthony Mason given the key role of bringing the ball up court.
Doc Rivers has Bob Hill screaming out right over his shoulder. Starks for 3. A big one. Knicks by 10. Mason and Charles Smith have really held Detlef Schrempf out of this game. That'll cost Mason a foul. 5 minutes and 10 seconds remaining in the 4th quarter here at Madison Square Garden in New York. Hal Troutwig in for Marv Albert, along with John Andres, Bruce Beck, and Walt Frazier. Pacers has cut the one-time Knick 19-point lead to 5. But now the Knicks have put together a mini run. John Starks' 3-pointer just a moment ago, giving him 14 points on the game. And the Knicks once again a 9-point lead. Pacers have played tough in this second half. Rick Smits and Patrick Ewing both with 4 fouls as they guard each other. The This will be a foul on Doc Rivers of the Knicks. That'll be his third.
Doc Rivers is agreeing more with the officials' calls these days, Al, if you notice. Most of the season, Doc had a problem agreeing with the official when a foul would be called, but now he's very cooperative.
I'm sure that's one of the things that came up in the Knicks pre-playoff camp in Charleston. Let's turn the other cheek. Unfortunately, that's something that Charles Oakley of the Knicks couldn't do tonight. Early technical in the first half, and then took a swipe to get George McLeod off his shoulders, resulting in an immediate second technical and an ejection just a few minutes ago.
Charles's shirt was being grabbed in a rebounding situation, and the official didn't take note of it, and that's what he objected to, but he did it quite outwardly, and that's what drew the technical.
Knicks have to work a little bit to get the ball in bounds. Starks and Anthony Mason. Mason, who does have dreams of running the point of a team someday, enjoys the moment where he gets to bring it up the floor. Doc Rivers pulls up over Schrempf. That's 17 for Doc Rivers.
That's a highly developed move he has. Dribble, dribble, jump shot.
Once again, Knicks by 10. Mason guarding Schrempf. He and Charles Smith have done a great job on Schrempf. Smith right now guarding Dale Davis. Miller guarded by Starks. And that will be a foul on Anthony Mason. Now the question now is not who is in foul trouble. The question is who isn't in foul trouble. Third on Mason.
Mason trailing Detlef Schrempf, who cannot shake Mason's presence. Mason not as tall as the 6'10" Schrempf, but the body and the speed is right there, and the desire, the pride he takes in his defense is what really makes him special.
And as the Knicks continue to foul Reggie Miller, they continue to almost hand the Pacers 2 points. He's now 12 of 12 from the line, 25 total on the game. It is when he is shooting off screens and dribbles that the Knicks defenders have a fair shot at him, and he's only 6 of 17. Knocks them both down. It's an 8-point game again.
Mason again given the job of bringing the ball up court. Dale Davis is just hanging with him. He's not bothering Mason, which is why Mason's been given that job.
Starts for Ewing, posting up a little too far outside. But he'll take that jumper. Almost stolen by Miller. 3 on the 24-second clock. And Doc Rivers hits with 2 on the 24-second clock. 19 for Rivers, 21 for Ewing, 23 for Charles Smith.
Doc Rivers' intensity and concentration is so evident tonight.
Schrempf runs into a Nick Wall. Smits over the outstretched hand of Ewing. 15 for Smits, 17 for Fleming, 26 for Miller. The Pacers scoring story. No top seed has ever lost the opening round of the playoffs since the best of 5 format has begun. Starks in and around and foul. And with 3:18 to go, John Starks will go to the free throw line with the Knicks up 8.
You know, it's interesting, Al, how throughout this very successful season with John Starks, the crowd really has taken to his actions on drives to the basket. They find him very exciting, and John has worked very hard at drawing that attention, and he's really turned the fans on when he drives that ball to the basket.
5th foul on Rick Smits. Doesn't he get you going, John? I mean, as a man who appreciates basketball, when he takes that step, you have a little bit more of a sense of anticipation. You never know exactly what he's going to do. He brings that to a game.
And he has the ability to execute shots all different ways and successful.
And you know, you look back to John Starks' original turn with the Knicks back 2 seasons ago, when if he doesn't have a knee injury, he doesn't get on the opening day roster. He gets cut. But because he had the injury, he stays on the roster, and when he comes back, the Knicks needed him at guard because someone else was hurt, and that's how he got his chance. Detlef Schrempf inside. Indiana gets a delay of game warning. 10 points for Detlef Schrempf, 4 rebounds, 3 of 9 from the floor. Anthony Mason's just loving this, the responsibility of dribbling up against the press. Rivers pressured by Dale Davis and Vern Fleming. That leaves Mason open. That leaves Smith open. And there will be a foul called. It will be on Detlef Schrempf. There will be some Knicks free throws when we come back.
seem to have the answers every time the Pacers get closer. Our Midas bench breakdown shows the first half bench points. The Knicks down by 2. The second half, the Pacers maintaining that lead also with 6 more than the Knicks. Although both teams are not getting significant numbers. Those are not big numbers for this point of the game. Free throws are very interesting. The Pacers getting to the line 9 more times than the Knicks and shooting the ball very well.
Reggie Miller has set a Pacer record in the playoffs for 13 for 13 as a shooting performance from the line. Charles Smith missing the first. In this quarter, the Pacers have been to the line 11 times, most of that Miller, and the Knicks only 4. Charles Smith has had a great game, 23 points, 6 rebounds. And he drops the second one. Knicks in front of the Pacers from a field goal shooting percentage standpoint, but it is that free throw success that has kept Indiana very much in this game. Smits deflected by Rivers, who thought it was deflected by Fleming. With 9 seconds on the 24-second clock, the Pacers call a 20-second timeout with 2:23 to go. And the Knicks in front by 9.
Well, the Knicks at 54% are certainly above their regular season average from the field. The Pacers, their opponents, of course, are right where the Knicks opponents have been, in the low 40% area all year long. So again, the defense of the Knicks is the telling point in the direction of this game.
Good performance by the Pacers. This had a look earlier of something that could have turned into a blowout. Live from the play-by-play, coming up after our Knicks opening night of the playoffs coverage. Mike Francesa scheduled to talk to Bill Cosby, Danny Glover, Dan Reeves, and the dramatic finals of the Bouncin' and Pronouncin' with Clyde contest.
Knicks, by the way, have shot 46%, 46.5 for the season. So they're way above that average for the year of 82 games with 54 tonight.
Now the Pacers are forced to burn another timeout, inability to get the ball in bounds.
Line, Charles Smith has had an excellent game, as you mentioned moments ago, Al. John Starks on the drive to the basket a couple of moments back. Number 54, Charles Smith, coming through with the jump shot. Our matchup now, he and Tremp. Charles Smith 2-1 in scoring plus.
Reggie Miller with the running one-hander. Miller now with 28 points. It is a 7-point Knick lead as the seconds tick down to the 2-minute mark in the fourth quarter. Starks pressured by Miller.
2 minutes.
With the 7-point lead and the 24-second clock ticking down, the Knicks go to Ewing, and he may have fouled out Rick Smits.
Indiana fouls on Rick Smits.
Rick Smits
At 6.
is gone. He is fouled out on a night in which many people in the Indiana organization didn't expect him to play at all with tendonitis in his right knee. But that certainly creates a problem for Indiana in the middle. But LaSalle Thompson has really worked hard in overcoming his height disadvantage. He's battled hard under the boards, and he has made a pretty good showing of himself tonight. Patrick Ewing has not been able to run wild. And right away, Smits gets ice on his slightly swollen right knee. Ewing hits the free throw to give the Knicks an 8-point lead.
It's only the 5th time or 6th time now this year that Smits has fouled out of a game. However, as a starting center, he only plays an average of 25 minutes a game. The foul problems still continue to plague his developing career.
John Starks is called for the foul. 4th foul on Starks. 4 on Ewing, 5 on Smith. Charles Oakley ejected with 2 technicals earlier.
John Starks spoke for the Knicks when he said there's no way Indiana beats us in a half-court game. What we have to do is limit their fast break opportunities and their open shots, and that's what the Knicks have done tonight. They have taken away the fast break that the Pacers wanted to establish. They just haven't been able to do it. However, the Pacers have done a pretty good job in the half-court offense that they've been forced into. They've made this game very interesting, and it gives them reason to believe that they can come back here Sunday and get the Knicks.
Reggie Miller 15 of 15 from the free throw line, 30 points. Now the Pacers put on the pressure, and they go small and they go fast. McLeod, Vern Fleming, Detlef Schrempf, Dale Davis, Reggie Miller. 1:38 to go. Mason pressured. Rivers is open. Didn't expect to be that open. Knicks by 6 with 90 seconds to go. Vern Fleming off the glass. Knicks by 4.
Boy, he sailed by Patrick Ewing, who didn't even present a defensive stance.
Rivers scoots away from Fleming. Sees Starks. And John Starks travels. Tried to do too much. What once was a 19-point lead in the third quarter has now become a 4-point difference with plenty of time for a three-point shooting team like Indiana. McLeod at 38%, Miller better than that, and John Starks is called for another foul.
You know, Al, with all of the focus on the Knicks' success, so many of the members of the media have been pressing while the Knicks were in Charleston for stories about the Knicks' success this coming June. And Pat Riley kept saying, hey, we're thinking about the Pacers. We can't look ahead, particularly in view of he said in a 7-game series, usually the better team wins. Not necessarily the case in a 5-game series. Pat Riley's having nightmares now of this game sliding away from his team.
Reggie Miller, 11 of 11 in this quarter alone. 12 of 12. And it is a 2-point ball game with 1 minute and 10 seconds to go. It looked like it was going to be easy. It's going to be anything but that.
Right now is getting nervous. This man, Bob Hill, is very happy about his team. That left Schrempf to Vern Fleming. Sails by Ewing. No help. Vern Fleming at 6'5". Brings that. This game to within 2 points. The Pacers are 2 points away from the Knicks with 1:10 left.
Here's the timeouts remaining. 2-2. Knicks with an extra 20. Vern Fleming starting for the injured Pooh Richardson has done a great job. Knicks struggle to get it in. Ewing rescues Mason. Starks on Miller, looking for Ewing. Starks finding Rivers for 2. Gets his own rebound. 55 seconds to go on a fresh 24. Knicks nursing a 2-point lead.
They do not need to rush the shot up now. They must get a good shot.
Starks for 3. And it will go out of bounds and belong to Indiana. The Knicks were unable to get much better than that.
Ewing unhappy. Major unhappy face on Patrick Ewing.
41.4 to go. Yeah, it's getting a little tight in the collar. The story, and Reggie Miller, in going from 17 for 17 from the line, ties an NBA playoff record for most free throws in a playoff game, no misses, tying Gail Goodrich and Bob Love. Here's the timeout story. Pacers with the ball down 2. Miller and McLeod can shoot the 3. Fleming for McLeod. He draws Smith. Miller looks for LaSalle Thompson. Tie game with 30.4 to go. The Knicks call time. 12-2. Very bumpy. Tied at 104 with 30.4 seconds to go.
With patience and ball movement, Reggie Miller double team hits LaSalle Thompson, who comes through big time. The Knicks are still in control, however. They have the game in their hands now.
How will they respond to this first test of playoff pressure in 1993? They've been unable to establish Ewing inside. That's the game clock. Starks with 12 on the 24. Starks looking for Ewing. Thompson's all over him. 6 on the 24. Ewing hits it!
He's been dying for the ball. He finally got it and made a difficult shot. He was not fully facing the basket. But his jump shooting versatility, time and again, the second part of this season has come through big time.
Well, there's no way the Knicks are going to be satisfied that they blew a 10-point lead with 3:18 to go. Now it's just a matter of survival. The fans chanting MVP again.
Why not after that shot? And you got to like John Starks. His enthusiasm is such that he wants to take the shot, but he deferred wisely, unlike the last moment when he took that long three-point shot. Another look at it from behind now. Quickly executed jump shot. Meanwhile, the Knicks don't have this one won yet. They've got to think about tough defense now and not committing a foul in the process.
Body bumps all around. No timeouts left for Indiana with 10.8 seconds to go. Ewing delivering 9 fourth-quarter points. Reggie Miller delivering 14 for the Pacers.
The dissipation of this lead by the Knicks has been very interesting, Al. It has not been because of turnovers. Turnovers are not a significant part of this game.
It's not beyond the realm of the possibility that the Pacers go for three. Reggie Miller and George McLeod could easily wind up with that shot, and they are both tremendously potent from beyond the stripe.
Oh, particularly Miller, who made more than any other player in the NBA this year.
No TOs left for the Pacers. With a 19-point lead in the third quarter, who would have expected this in the toughest building to win in for opponents in the NBA?
That left shrimp and Reggie Miller are the main focus points now for the Knicks.
He's the man. McLeod will inbound. Charles Smith pressuring him.
Mason on Shrimp.
It is Doc Rivers guarding Reggie Miller. Can they get it in? Finally to Miller. Guarded by Rivers. Gets a screen from Thompson. Ewing helps out. Out of bounds. Nick Ball. With 5.6 to go. Bedlam in front of the Knick bench. Patrick Ewing jumped out, and as the season has been, defense helped save the day for the Knicks. No timeouts left for Indiana. But the Knicks take one. 5.6 seconds to go, and Reggie Miller thinks he was fouled. Forced the turnover with 5.6 seconds to go. It left Reggie Miller screaming at the officials.
Reggie double teamed by Ewing and just simply loses control of the ball. This is a play the Knicks have made all year. The guard penetrates, gets by the other guard. The big man, in this case Ewing, comes out to help out. And that's what forced the turnover. A play the Knicks have been doing all year with the big man helping the guards.
A lot of contact on that play. No timeouts for the Pacers, but the Knicks called one. Pacers are going to look for a quick foul. The Knicks have but a 20-second timeout left. Mason overplayed is Ewing by George McLeod, and Patrick Ewing will go to the free throw line with 5 seconds to go. He hit the big jumper, and the fans will no doubt begin the chant. And boy, did Michael Jordan have a great line after that game on Sunday. He said, "I can't believe the Knicks fans would chant at me while Ewing was at the free throw line." The intriguing moments are not over.
Patrick is focusing on the rim, as you can see.
Well, this is an absolute must now with the three-point shooters that the Pacers have. The Knicks absolutely must have this.
Keep the ball out of Reggie Miller's hands.
No TOs for the Pacers. They get it in for Shred.
No foul either on the shot.
Miller for three and beyond. And that is it.
Easy game, Al, huh?
This was not the way the scripters written by Pat Riley and the Knicks. But they do go on to take the opening game. The Pacers fought hard. The Knicks had to overcome the ejection of Charles Oakley, who was in the midst of an effective game and some foul trouble. But they do hold on to beat the Indiana Pacers in Game 1 of this best-of-5, 107-104. Here are the last 5 seconds.
Meanwhile, the Pacers do a good job getting the ball into the hands of their best long-range shooter, Detlef Schrempf, delivering it. Coming up, setting the pick on the exchange. Miller gets the shot off.
So it ends here at the Garden, but we have lots more to come. Bruce Beck will be back to anchor our post-game coverage on MSG. The Knicks go 1-up in this best-of-5, but it was close.
1993 NBA playoffs, the final score 107-104. Here's Patrick Ewing getting the key bucket to put the Knicks up 106-104 with 10.8 seconds remaining. And then the Pacers got the ball to the man they wanted to, Reggie Miller, who was on fire, especially from the line in the fourth quarter of play. But watch as Miller loses the basketball. Ewing comes out. There is some contact. It is ruled the other way, a turnover. Patrick goes to the line. Knicks up by 2. 5 seconds remaining. Misses the first. And he hit the second. New York 107-104. Final play of the ball game. The Pacers come up with an excellent shot. Detlef Schrempf screens for Reggie Miller. He takes the 3 and barely misses. So the Knicks, who are up by 19 at one point, watch this last shot by Reggie Miller sail off the mark, and the Knicks have a 3-point win at the Garden. Oh, so close from giving up the home court advantage in this series. But the Knicks are able to come up in the end, and it's Patrick Ewing who gets the game-winning basket. Schrempf and Smits combined for just 25 points in this ball game, and still the Pacers were close. Not a good sign for the New York Knicks. Reggie Miller was sensational down the stretch. He did not miss from the free throw line. Here's a look at the Tri-State Jeep and Eagle leading scorer summary. Ewing, Smith, above 20, 25 for Patrick, 24 for Charles Smith. Doc Rivers had 19 points. For the Pacers, Reggie Miller, 32, and Vern Fleming, a superb game starting in place of Pooh Richardson. He finishes with 19. So the Knicks over the Pacers by 3. More of our post-game show coming up. Pacers, but just barely 107-104. They lead the best-of-5 game series 1-0. Knicks getting solid efforts tonight from Patrick Ewing and Charles Smith. And Charles Smith is our NatWest player of the game. He shot it real well from the field, 10 for 16. Finishes with 24 points and 6 rebounds. And Charles joins us courtside. Fourth quarter, Charles, seemed to be some breakdowns defensively for the Knicks, and offensively, you didn't bang the ball inside.
Well, that's basically it. I recall in the fourth quarter during the transition game, we had Patrick out on the guards. We weren't communicating in the fourth quarter defensively, then offensively. I believe we should have been pounding it inside to the post-up players instead of settling for jump shots.
How did Charles Oakley being ejected affect the game down the stretch?
Well, you know, Oak is the type of player who takes a lot of charges. He's a great defender, and Oak just gets in there. He gets a lot of great plays. He doesn't do the scoring. He just does a lot of great plays defensively, and he helps us out. He sets screens offensively. He's an intangibles person. That's what we missed.
Could be a wake-up call tonight.
Well, it's definitely a wake-up call that we have to do the right things, not just against Indiana, but every time we step on the floor, we got to play the way we're supposed to be playing, and you can't slip up.
All right, Charles, congratulations on a good offensive game, a solid defensive game, and continued success.
Thank you, and thank God. All right.
I don't blame you, Charles. It was that close tonight. Guests receive Fendi timepieces, uniquely designed in Italy and registered internationally. They are Swiss-made and water-resistant to 165 feet. Available at fine jewelry stores, fine department stores, at duty-free locations worldwide. The Knicks in a squeaker. 20 straight at home, but it wasn't an easy one tonight. They prevail over the Pacers 107-104. Don't forget, coming up next, it's live from the play-by-play with Mike Francesa, Bill Cosby, Danny Glover, Dan Reeves, and don't forget the finals of the bouncing and pronouncing contest, all tonight with Mike on live from the play-by-play. Here's Bob Hill addressing the press.
You got to play through those, so I don't really have any comment. I don't, I could sit here and say, well, that lost the game for us, but I'm not going to do it. We should have played through you can't flop in the playoffs, and maybe you could define that play as a flop if you want, or you could define it as a no call. I think the fair call, perhaps, if you want my real opinion, if they didn't think it was a foul and they shoved him out of bounds, they should have at least given us the ball. That's what I think. That would have been the right call. But I don't do the officiating. Because if I'd have done the officiating, we'd have won.
Not close, huh?
How can you tell us what you thought the overall success of your full court pressure was?
Well, that's one of the ways we try to stay in the game with them, to take them out of their sets. Pat does such a great job of, they run their sets so well that we try to get them the ball out of the point guard's hands as much as we can, and try to disrupt them and make them do something that they really don't want to do. And, it's disruptive, but they've been, I'm sure the other teams press them, and it helps, but he'll be ready for that on Sunday. So we'll have a different press on Sunday.
Did you expect so much scoring out of Smith?
Sure. Yeah. Detlef had a tough night. That's an interesting matchup that he's had his way with. I don't know what the stats are, but that's an interesting matchup. Det had a tough night. Smith is, he can score inside out. I don't know how many he had. What do you have? 24. Yeah, 24. But
if Shrimp has a normal game, maybe we
win. Yeah, if he hits some shots, maybe we win. He had a tough night.
Bob, did you make the argument that this is the game that you could have stolen? And that maybe now you're going to woke them up a little bit, now see the extra part of the one opportunity?
No, that's for you guys to write. I don't know. We'll be here Sunday.
Is this a more difficult place to play than most arenas?
It is now. A few years ago, it wasn't.
When you were the coach,
big play. Reggie Miller losing the ball. 5.6 seconds remaining. The officials give the ball to the Knicks, and New York wins by 3. We'll be right back.
The Bud Dunk of the Game is brought to you by Budweiser, fresh, pure, natural, proud to be your Bud.
And tonight's Bud Dunk of the Game provided by, guess who? John Starks. But it's Oakley going on the floor, surrendering his body, and Charles Smith throwing the long, nice outlet pass that set up Starks for the jam. Right now, Pat Riley addressing the press.
Did not really allow us to run a lot of offense, so we had to scramble most of the time, and we anticipated that, but we did not handle that and allowed them to get back into the game. So from that standpoint, we just have to go to work. It's a good win. This is the way it's going to be in the playoffs. Any questions?
Pat, do you read this as a disappointing effort by the Knicks tonight?
No, I thought we had a great effort. I thought we were playing the game for 2.5 quarters, the way that we had talked about and prepared. You just cannot ever think that a team like Indiana is going to be out of it. Because they just shoot the ball too well, they're too quick, and Miller, Shrimp, all of those players are very competent. So I don't think we let down. I just think you have to give them a lot of credit for hanging tough, and I'm not disappointed by the win at all. We'll go to work on some things that I thought we had problems with, but we made some big plays going down the stretch. There was one stretch in the fourth quarter where they made 9 consecutive shots, so we just could not stop them for any amount of time, and that should probably end up in a loss. I thought the 6 free throws they got when we were plus 10 were the kind of fouls that we talk about when they're in the penalty that we don't want to, make away from the ball. So, from that standpoint, it may have been, a little bit disappointing, but from the winning standpoint, not at all, not in the playoffs.
The shot that Patrick Ewing got to put the Knicks ahead 106-104.
Well, it's a tough shot. We try to keep it simple, and again, because you don't know if they're just going to run and jump. You could call a set and they would run and jump and take you out of that set. We try to keep it real simple the last 3 or 4 minutes with, straight posts and also pick and rolls. And, we ran one of the plays that we run a lot, and, John got the ball and entered at the pat, but he was still away, but, he made the shot that he had to make.
And then he also made the big defensive play the next sequence, jumping out in front of Miller.
On a blitz, yes. Yes.
Did it look like Miller had lost the ball before he got bumped by Patrick, or was it simultaneous?
It was a tough defensive play, and, there was contact on it, but, the way the game was going at that particular time, you have to earn it. The ball, I think he had a chance to keep possession if he didn't let it go off the dribble, but, there were enough plays that went both ways that you could question, but I don't think that one you can.
How do you explain a little disappointed, Patrick? Maybe you gave them a little confidence, the fact that we're able to put them away?
It may help them, but I think it helps us also. I think it could be a sobering thing for us, too. I think that goes both ways. They're a professional basketball team, and I made this point the other day, save for maybe a few teams, seeds 1 and 8, depending on who they are and how a team plays, there's a lot of parity. If you take a look at our scores against Indiana this year, save for that one blowout here at the Garden, they've all been close. All very close games with that team.
Would you say this makes them coachable?
What's that?
Would you say this makes them a little?
They're very coachable. They're a very coachable team. They will respond, and as I said, we dodged the bullet. You dodge bullets in this league, and you move on.
What about when Charles Oakley was on? After he got ejected, he sort of took his time leaving, and you had to speak to him, and then he still took his time. What were your thoughts about that event in general?
Well, I thought it went on a little bit too long, and he had one technical, so the second technical ejected him, and I think he had to get off the floor. But we'll discuss all these things tomorrow. It's a very, very emotional game, and we'll have to just leave it at that and go from there with it.
Can you describe your blitz play on defense, and was what Patrick did, is that the textbook example of it?
Well, everybody knows it, and the opposition knows it. We don't like to let teams just run pick and rolls, all night long. So there's a couple of things we do defensively to defend that. And at that particular time, he did what we do and what we have been doing all year long. Very aggressive defensive play on the ball.
Pat, you made a big point of
Curtis Bunn has emerged from the locker room and joins us courtside. You had a chance to talk to Charles Oakley. What was the tone of his reaction to what transpired tonight?
Well, if you know Charles Oakley, you know that these kind of things do not go by quietly. He was still cursing about the officiating throughout the game, not only the technical foul calls, but the officiating throughout the game. He felt like he was just trying to free himself, really, from George McLeod, and the technical came, so he was very, very upset about it.
This was the first technical in the first half. He was upset about his jersey being tugged, and then later it led to his second tee, and the referee said it was because Charles was upset. It had nothing to do with the punch, however, correct?
No, Oakley brought that up. He said, the NBA has instituted this new rule about throwing punches. He certainly did not throw a punch, but what he was doing was trying to free himself. That was it. And he thinks that the officiating is pretty much calling it a lot closer than they had in the regular season, and particularly on the Knicks.
Ewing's response about his game-winning bucket.
Well, Ewing was a little dejected because they had failed down the stretch, but he said LaSalle Thompson gave him some space to face up, and he looked at the shot clock and noticed that it was dwindling, so he thought that it was time to take a shot. And of course, he's the guy who they want to shoot at the end anyway.
Quick thought from Doc Rivers. You had a chance to talk to Doc.
Doc said it was sort of a wake-up call for us in a sense. He said that we don't feel lucky to have won this game, but we certainly don't feel good about the way we played it. And particularly down the stretch, they had the team on the ropes quite a few times, and then suddenly the defense that really was their mainstay all season kind of disappeared.
Thank you, Curtis. So a little bit of relief tonight for the New York Knicks, surviving against the Indiana Pacers at the Garden and winning by 3 to take the lead in the series 1-0. Once again, the final score, the Knicks 107, the Indiana Pacers 104. Stay tuned next, live from the play-by-play with Mike Francesa, Bill Cosby, Danny Glover, Dan Reeves, and the Bouncing and Pronouncing with Clyde contest. For Al Trotwig and John Andres, Walt Clyde Frazier, Curtis Bunn, I'm Bruce Beck. Thanks for joining us at Good Night from the Garden. The final score, 107-104 Knicks.